All right, welcome our video audience to the program. All forms of social media, our YouTube channel, Twitter, Facebook, cameras are on as we begin the college football hour. Prater, yesterday, James Montgomery, running back coach. Monday, Jabril Frazier, the edge coach. Today, in the final installment of this series, we go Erik Chinander, the new defensive line coach. And we talked about this at 3 o'clock. We'll revisit a little bit. Whoa, decent looking resume, Prater.
Yeah, decent resume and all kinds of resume. A very spicy resume in terms of community college, group of 5, power 5, NFL. He's been all over the place. He's been on offense. He's been on defense. Offensive lineman at Iowa for 5 years. Not even sure if he ever played or not, but he was at Iowa as an offensive lineman for 5 years and saw that program go up and down and up and down and up and down as a player. So it's very impressive. Scott Frost disciple, Chip Kelly disciple. Don't know if he has any connection whatsoever to Andy Avalos, but he's Andy Avalos' new defensive line coach and assistant head coach.
How much? Because for me, it's a big deal. You know, I'm an NFL guy. And if I was a coach in college football, I would love to be able to tell a potential player, a recruit, I know what it takes to get to the NFL. I've coached in the NFL. I know what those guys eat, sleep, and breathe. I know what it takes. If you really want to be an NFL player, I will do everything in my power to help you get there. And if I'm a player, I'm listening to that guy more than the coach who has never been involved with the NFL as a player or a coach. Is that big for you too? Because Chinander, he does have NFL experience.
No, it's not big for me. I mean, you're not wrong in terms of a player is going to want to tap into that a little bit, but he was an assistant line coach for 9 months, and he's been out there coaching for over 20 years. So I'm not too worried about his NFL pedigree. It doesn't hurt. It certainly is going to attract some people's attention, and they might have a couple of questions here, but he hasn't been in the NFL over 10 years, and he was an assistant line coach for 9 months. So to me, it's more about the defensive coordinator at Central Florida, the defensive coordinator in Nebraska, the Scott Frost disciple, learning from Chip Kelly. Those are two powerful organizations, two powerful people in college football in this country, and to learn from those guys and to try to figure it out, that's pretty dang spectacular to me. So I like his resume from there. I like the fact that he's, East Coast, West Coast, North, South, Pacific, Northwest, Midwest. I mean, he checks a lot of different boxes. I don't think he has a superpower. I don't think there's anything that stands out on his resume that makes me go, whoa, that's really, really cool. I just think he checks a lot of basic boxes that make him a pretty qualified coach, and we'll see what happens. He's got a lot of work to do with the defensive line. We'll know exactly what kind of coach he is, and what kind of impact he's going to have on this program after the first season, because we know the offensive line has a lot of work, and right now, Erik Chinander is definitely in charge of that line.
For the last 7 years of college football, Erik Chinander has been a defensive coordinator for 2 high-level programs, one being Nebraska. He was there with Scott Frost for 5 years as the DC in Lincoln. And before that, he was in Orlando with UCF the year they won that fictional national title. He was their defensive coordinator the year before as well, where they had a lot of success. They went to New Year's 6 bowl games. Like, this guy, again, the resume for him just to be your defensive line coach. And, we're going to talk to him about working with, Andy Avalos and Spencer Danielson. I mean, it's just got to be a nice resource, wouldn't you think? Like, if you were in your newspaper days and you hired a beat writer, but you knew that beat writer also had a ton of experience as a sports editor, would you look at that guy and say, hey, if I need to, I can go pick a brain here because he has sat in the seat that I currently sit in?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, the more variety you have, right? The fact that he's coached tight ends, the fact that he's coached all kinds of other things. He's been a recruiting coordinator. So, yeah, certainly all that stuff helps. He played on the offensive line, and he's coaching defensive line. So he knows where he's coming from, and I think there's a lot of variety with his resume.
I traced his steps back. He was a player at Iowa. He said he didn't play much, but he was on an Iowa Hawkeye team that went to the Orange Bowl and lost to one of our favorite guests, Carson Palmer, in USC. That was that Carson Palmer, Brad Banks Orange Bowl, if you remember it. Pete Carroll just getting things started at USC. So he's played and he's coached in some big-time football games. Let's hear from him. Erik Chinander, your new defensive line coach at Boise State, talking about Boise, this opportunity, and why BSU.
You know, I've been to Boise. It's been about 10 years ago, just recruiting a couple guys. Every person I've ever talked to about living just in the Valley has said nothing but unbelievable things about, you know, the opportunity to have a great experience here for my wife, my kids, my family. And then also my familiarity with Coach Avalos, known him for a long time. I think our football pedigree lines up pretty well. Our beliefs in defense lines up pretty well. And then obviously the culture and the track record for Boise, you know, speaks for itself.
How'd you first meet Coach Avalos?
I think that, you know, he was coaching, I believe, linebackers here. I was coaching either D-line or linebackers at Oregon, and we kind of got together and talked football a few different times. You know, Mark Helfrich was on our staff and had a lot of similar relationships. And then we spent some time on the road recruiting with each other as the years went through.
Spent some time on the road recruiting. Does that mean beers in the hotel lobby?
For some coaches, it certainly means beers in the hotel lobby, Prater. You know how this thing works.
Absolutely. No indictment there, Coach Avalos. I know you're out there working hard, but or maybe it's conversations at the rental car counter as you stand in line with the tourist trying to get your rental car. But battles on the recruiting trails, that's certainly where it sounds like where Chinander and Avalos with mutual connections and Helfrich and the Oregon connections. It's all pretty cool there. So we've made a lot about the fact that teams won a national championship, and that came up yesterday or Monday when we had a chance to talk about this. In this particular case, ball game, we added your question. You're the one who asked him this question. We included the question because I wanted to hear the question, sucker. And I wanted to hear the little giggle from Erik Chinander about winning a national champion. We've been having fun with Central Florida on this show for many, many years about their national championship, and here's Johnny asking a national champion about his national championship.
Your group of five experience, I think you were the DC on that national championship team at UCF.
Yeah.
What does that provide you here, Boise State being another one of those like perennial group of five contenders?
Well, I think first and foremost, I knew, you know, what it was going to be like coming here. You know, those, you know, there's teams at the top and there's others that, you know, are still trying to make their way to the top, but you know that this is the Power Five. You know, a program like this is the Power Five. Also, I think, you know, just the coordinator experience, obviously, Spencer Danielson's done an unbelievable job. Andy's done an unbelievable job, but just having, you know, one more probably voice in there, maybe that bounce a few ideas off or give a few suggestions, a few adjustments, a few answers to some issues, I think is always good. I always enjoyed it when I was a coordinator, having some other experienced guys in the room with me.
Prater, I mean, when I was asking that question, you know, before I asked it, I thought, should I take a shot at UCF here on this? And it's just, maybe I was the only one in that press scrum that would have asked that, that would have thrown that in there. Is that fair to say?
I can't speak for the other guys. I don't know.
Okay. I thought that was fun. You could hear he even chuckled, man.
Yeah. That's why I threw it in there. It was the chuckle.
I love it, man. Good stuff. He also spoke, Erik Chinander, again, Boise State defensive line coach, about why he wanted to, why he loved this opportunity to be able to work at Boise State, but in particular with Coach Andy Avalos.
He's super detail-oriented, very clear communicator. Everything in the program that I've witnessed so far is super, super organized. I mean, he's got his hands, you know, on the offense, defense, special teams. He kind of moves around, strength and conditioning. So I think he does a great job of encompassing the whole program. Like I said, he's super detailed, super organized, and we know exactly what he wants after we meet with him, which has been impressive.
All right, as we told you before, Erik Chinander played offensive line at Iowa for 4 years. He was an offensive lineman at Iowa for 5 years. He redshirted 1 year.
Yep.
And then I haven't found any reference of him ever even playing.
Okay.
So I'm not saying he has or hasn't. He doesn't show up anywhere. And we'll clarify that more as we get to know him more. But here's kind of what he had to say about being a player at Iowa.
Not very good. No, I wasn't a very good player. No, I played behind a lot of really good players. I was fortunate to be on a team that was probably not real good, then was real bad, then not real good, then we got good, and then we were really good the last year.
Team.
Yeah, we were really good that year. I think it was the first year of the BCS, and we got to go play in one of those games. So But I was fortunate enough to be with some really good players. Learned a lot. Learned that I was going to be a better football coach than a player, probably early. And I also got to see the evolution of what it looks like when a program gets kind of changed for the better. So that's been helpful, as you go along. Another thing that's been helpful is, I got to play on both offense and defense and coach on offense and defense. And that's really helped me, grow as my job turned in from defensive position coach to coordinator and those types of things, because I understand what's going on offense. I understand what's going on up front. And I think I can help you guys make adjustments quicker.
It wasn't the first year of the BCS. That was 1998, but that was the first year he was on campus. So maybe he was talking about that a little bit at Iowa. And just a little factoid for all you other geeks out there. He played that Iowa team, Robert Gallery, if you remember him, an offensive lineman, Prater, I think taken second overall. And a tight end, you might remember, Dallas Clark with the Indianapolis Colts, were teammates of him in college, two high-level NFL players. He was in a good college at a good time there, Erik Chinander. And the resume just continues, man. This guy has been around football at a very, very high level, and now he's coaching Boise State's defensive linemen.
Good lesson learned here for young college football players who aren't exactly good. The two coaches on Boise State staff that have actually already made it to the NFL, Bush Hamdan and Erik Chinander, were not very good college players. Bush Hamdan will tell you that he was an okay college player, never really got a chance to play because he wasn't great. And sounds like the same case for Erik Chinander. Checked a lot of boxes, done a lot of great things as coaches, realized very early in their career that they were going to be better coaches than players, have made it all the way to the NFL, and have now settled in with really nice jobs at the college level. So just because you're not a great dominant football player at the college level, like Andy Avalos or like a Matt Miller or like a Jabril Frazier, some of these, James Montgomery, he was a dominant high school player, not so much a dominant running back at Washington State. But, good for Erik Chinander, good for Bush Hamdan, good for their journey. And all three of these coaches that we've talked about, Chinander, James Montgomery, and Jabril Frazier, we've met them. We've introduced you to them the last 3 days. All of these interviews you can find at KTIK.com or our KTIK app if you want to go back and listen to them. Pretty cool stuff.
All right, well said. College football hour. Let's continue this. But first, I need your opinion on the Cloverdale Plumbing text line. We're going to detail and show you the season ticket decline at Boise State, basically from the Kellen Moore era to where it sits now. But I need your help. What do you put your finger on more than any other reason why Boise State season tickets have dropped in the dramatic fashion they've dropped in? And we'll detail that when we come back. But maybe you were a season ticket holder before and you are no longer. Well, why not? Maybe you didn't buy tickets then, but now you do. Well, why? What's your thought on this, Bronco Nation? We need your help on this season ticket decline, because Mike Prater is going to deliver an oral history of Boise State season ticket sales. That's coming up next on the College Football Hour here on Prater in the Ball Game. The original Kids Fair, it's coming back to Expo, Idaho. It's hosted by Peppa Pig this year. Stage performers, face painters, inflatable parks, tons of interactive fun with the Discovery Center of Idaho. Get the kids out of the house at the biggest and best kids fair Idaho has to offer. Saturday, February 25th from 10 to 6 with Sports Radio The Ticket.
From the Beacon